Hello there. Welcome to episode 57 of Bow and Blade, a podcast brought to you by medievalist.net, your home for all things medieval on the internet. Bow and Blade gives you a seat at the bar as scholars of medieval warfare go beyond the Wikipedia articles to talk about the debates and the questions that we're working on today. I'm Michael Livingston, Distinguished Professor at the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina.
And I'm Kelly DeVries, professor of history at Loyola University in Maryland. Mike, we're a little sporadic this year. We ought to tell the listeners that we've had very different schedules. We've clashed
Yeah,
on every afternoon.
yeah,
You
we
you've
talked
taught
about
on
this
the
the
days
last
I don't.
episode.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
you've
talked
taught
about
on the
this
days
last
I don't.
episode.
Yeah,
It really is. It's been trouble getting us kind of lined up, but now that the
yeah,
semester's
yeah,
over, we're hoping we can pack a few in
yeah,
before things get
yeah.
crazy again.
Absolutely. Many more battles to go. It's not a
Yeah,
subject we're going to run out of.
yeah,
I keep finding new battles to be interesting or new engagements to be interesting. And others have suggested, well, why don't you move into something that's more Mongolian, more Asian, and North African and others? And I think, oh, wow, just add to the list.
it's a ton of stuff we could do, and we've been getting a lot of really nice notes from people, like
Yes.
fan mail and things and questions. So as ever, we welcome that. We put it into the mix, and in what 3 episodes from now, we will have our next Q&A. So keep those
Yeah.
coming, please, please,
Yeah,
please,
please
please.
keep those coming. Q&As are really fun because it's one where we can talk about different aspects, not have them solely in a battle, but talk about different aspects. And
Yeah,
those are always enjoyable. So I don't remember who thought about that on for episode 5, but we've now done what, 11
yeah, we're cooking on
Q&As?
them. We're cooking on
Here
them.
we are.
What are you drinking tonight at the bar?
Well, I have to tell you, I am drinking a French red wine. And I'm picking a vineyard that is somewhere between Chartres and Loire Basin.
Mm, 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 mm.
You know,
That
just
would
just for
check out.
geographic location.
That
All
would
French
that
wine
would
is
definitely
good.
check out. Yeah. That yeah. I mean, we're both gonna be drinking it because we're doing the Battle of Patay in
Battle of Patay.
1429, which is right between Chartres and Orleans.
Yeah,
Right in
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Beautiful,
And then
beautiful countrysides.
oh, absolutely. I mean, we've been through those countrysides number of times, and every time I go back there, I just say, why did they fight over this? I mean,
Yeah,
well,
just everybody
they
sit
could have
down and have a
ruined
picnic.
this. Yeah, I know. That's it. Which is, it's the most peaceful part of the world, and yet it's been a battlefield for a lot of period, unfortunately. All of Europe has, I guess. That's
Yeah, I mean all
an
of Europe has.
understatement.
This particular little, I mean, it's essentially a stretch of road. Saw two major battles in close order, actually.
Close order,
Patay
yeah,
being one of them.
yeah.
Um, so
And
go
and
ahead.
both I should say, both involved. And everybody's expected we're going to say both involved Joan of Arc. They did not. Neither of them really involved Joan of Arc. Both involved Fastolf, who will become Shakespeare's Falstaff. So, we've got that kind of thing going as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, these are both associated with Joan. But yeah, in truth, she does not much for either one.
Well,
Yeah,
she's within the army of the second, but the way we'll describe it will explain her role being a bit more limited, not because she is kept from the battle or doesn't take part in that. It's just over too quickly.
yeah, it's over before she even gets there. But
Yeah,
we'll get there. We'll get there.
we'll get there. Okay,
Um,
okay,
so
okay.
let's start. So we did an episode on the Siege of Orleans. And I'm just glancing back, see if I can find what number that
Is it number
was.
3? I was thinking it was number 2 or 3.
It was number 3. Good memory, buddy. It
Yeah.
was episode 3 we did on Siege of Orleans. So we did an episode on Siege of Orleans. This comes right afterwards. I mean, not
Yes.
like the next day, but like
No, no.
this
It's
is
a
the
it's a
next
month
the next
and a
big
week
beat.
after. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the next big beat in that story. So if you want to go back and listen to a much earlier us talking Siege of Orleans, Lord, I hope we're getting better at it than we were at first. I don't, maybe we're the same. I don't know.
Well, every once in a while I've got students because I deal with Joan in classroom quite often, and I have students they'll go back to that one and listen, and they think it's one of the best. So
Oh,
maybe we're
cool.
just in a rut. That's all. As long as it's a high, on a ridge line, for miles, I'm fine. If we go down, I'm not. But this, yeah, it's been fun. And it is only the second time that we've really encountered Joan in a military engagement after Orleans. That's only because she has a year. That's it. She's involved in the military affairs of the Hundred Years' War for 1 year. So really, the only other two that could be undertaken would be the siege of Paris, which we probably do sometime, and her capture of Compiègne and the siege of Compiègne. Uh, but there's not a lot after Orleans that
Yeah.
where she's involved with. Yeah.
We should definitely do Compiègne. Compiègne is fascinating
Compiègne is fascinating,
because you can really
right?
you can sort of see the landscape and like kind of how things played out there. That one's a cool one for sure.
And
But that,
there's still ideas. There's still people out there who want to believe that Joan of Arc was betrayed.
she
They
was not.
cannot focus. And I said, but she wasn't couldn't have been betrayed. The English do not win, or the English Anglo-Burgundians do not win at Compiègne. So if she's betrayed, then there's no reason for it.
Well, yeah, I mean they've got to be thinking of Guillaume de Flavy that closes the door on her, right? But look, he did the right thing. Like he did
Oh
exactly
yeah,
what he was supposed to do. But we can talk
yeah.
about that when we talk about that siege.
We'll talk about that.
But yeah, he did right, and too bad.
Yeah.
What are you gonna
Well, it
do?
was for her. The
Yeah,
Unfortunately took a couple years, but that was
it
it.
was a bad scene. Um,
Yeah,
so we're talking Joan, and you can go back and listen to Siege of Orleans to just catch people up if they don't want to do that. And I've never heard of Siege of Orleans. Can you give us like just a couple minute Siege of Orleans, Kelly? Like, what was
yeah.
it? Why was it important?
Very important. The English were under Thomas of Salisbury had tried to make a to make a campaign against the Loire, capture the Loire, which is where the Dauphin is. He's at the Castle of Blois or the Castle of Chinon, and they focus on Orleans, biggest city there. And while they're involved in capturing it, the citizens of Orleans who do not want to be English break the bridge, and then they do not fall. It's besieged for a very long time. Thomas of Salisbury is killed right after they take the Tourelle by a fluke gunshot, and the citizens hold on. In the meantime, a whole bunch of people just gather. The best thing is when I think it's Dunois at the end in the rehabilitation trial says uh, they knew not Joan or they knew not Agincourt. These were younger men and they did not, they wanted to fight, and this was a focal point. And then she shows up, says, "Oh, by the way, God's given me a mission to come and relieve Orleans and all," and she does.
And she
There's your two
does.
minutes. She
Yeah,
does.
it's amazing. And one of the key points here that you mentioned that's kind of essential is that the Orleanais, as you said, held out, and basically nobody else did. So the towns upriver and downriver, and the fortifications upriver and downriver, they basically everybody folded. Here comes the English, the Dauphin, the Loire is kind of the border essentially, in as much as one was between the Dauphinese lands on the French side and those lands that were held by the Anglo-Burgundian alliance, which were north of it, and then included Paris. So Paris is in Anglo-Burgundian hands at this point. And yeah, everything has fallen, but the Orleanais held out for months and months and months and months and
for
months.
months. Yeah, and if you read, I mean, we've got a really wonderful source, and this to me is key to understanding the role of Joan in playing in the raising of the siege. We have this excellent source, the journal is kept by an anonymous person inside Orlean, and it is instrumental in telling us how many times the Orleanais would just come out and skirmish with the English, just cause them all sorts of problems, and the English guns couldn't reach across the river. They could hit the river, took out the mills, the river mills, and they put horse mills inside the town and accommodated. So it's a great. I mean, it alone is a great story, the Siege of Orleans. But then out of the blue comes a peasant woman from the Burgundian lands and says, "Oh yeah," to me and says, "I got to come here, and I'll
Yeah,
history
and she
changes."
shows up, and as I said, she shows up, and boom, it's over. It's quite a remarkable thing.
Yeah, it
Um,
is a remarkable thing.
and the English, what are you going to do? This We're not going to be able to break Orleans. So
No,
what do we do now? And trying to simplify things here, we essentially have two English forces on the field. One that's on the Loire, and another one that's kind of coming en route.
yeah,
And those forces are led by one man, as Kelly said at the start here, will ultimately become the model for Shakespeare's Falstaff. His name is Fastolf. If one of us screws up and calls him Falstaff, I hope you'll forgive us. I do it
please
all the
forgive us.
time.
Blame it on the bard.
I do it all the time. I'll be talking to my students. I'll be like, and that's when Falstaff. Ah, dang it. No, not Falstaff. Um, Fastolf just seems like a weird word because Falstaff, that makes sense. So Falstaff is one of them. The other guy is Talbot.
Yeah.
And Talbot is an amazing guy. We've actually talked about him
Yeah.
before from later in his career because we
Yeah,
did an
he's the
episode 33, on Castillon. He's the guy there.
and Talbot
I
has a couple of other leaders on the Loire. He's got the Duke of Suffolk, William de la Pole, who gets more famous because he's corrupt afterwards, or probably just stupid. But he will eventually be tried for treason in England, not for anything he does in the Loire. And Sir Thomas Scales, who is at this point really an up and coming young officer in the or young general in the English army. But Fastolf's coming with a relief army, and I'm not entirely certain whether that's the reason. But after Orleans is taken, they celebrate in the town and everything else, and Joan goes back to Chinon for a month, and the French do nothing for a month. Now there's still sites on the Loire that are held by the English. There are three major ones: Jargeau, which is north of Orleans, and then Bojency and Meung, south of Orleans. And Meung, in fact, is where the headquarters for the English leadership is on the Loire. They also held Guyenne, but it seems to have been abandoned at this point to bring more troops to bear on those three areas. But the French don't do anything for a month, and it's always bothering me. I just don't. I'm not entirely certain why. I've got some ideas, but I'm not entirely certain why.
Well, I mean, for one thing, they need to raise the army. So they are raising an army. She
Yeah,
comes back to kind of not be in charge of the army,
no,
but to be the mascot. I really don't know how's the inspiration for it.
and I
She's
think that's
not.
what we hit. We got a very negative, or maybe I got it, very negative response after number three when we did call her a mascot. Oh, she's not a mascot. She's a saint. Well, that's true. She's she's part of the army and she's part of the leadership staff. There's no question she's getting involved in the discussions on what to do. But and she's improving herself. And it is during this period that, for example, we have later testimony from the Duke d'Alençon in a rehabilitation trial that this is where she starts working on her riding of horses and starts working on her swordsmanship and some of the other things that had not been able to take place in the couple of weeks before. But between the time she came to Chinon and Orleans and heading to Orleans. So it's not, she's not unbusy. And she is being involved in it. But the French they aren't moving on this victory. And I've
And again, I just
not,
think it's logistics. I mean, they did not expect
yeah.
that she would walk into Orleans and the English would leave. Nobody thought that was going to happen. So it's not
Well,
like there
yeah,
was a huge
true.
army like being gathered. It's just, oh my gosh, we won. Oh my God, we need to put
Yeah,
together an army, and that takes time. And in this case, it takes several weeks to try and put that together and get it on the move. Yeah, I get. Yeah, she's not. Yeah, she's more than a mascot. But I always kind of I want to react against people who are like Joan of Arc was the commander. Joan of Arc was
no,
like, and you're like, no, she wasn't. And that's not to say that that lessens her or whatever, but just like facts are facts. She wasn't. She was amazing. And the army is like she may not be leading it, but they're following her, if that makes any sense. Like,
right. And that is the important thing. The leadership of the Bastard of Orleans is still the Bastard of Orleans, not Lord Dunois at this point, and and Duke d'Alençon and Charles the Dauphin, all of them are willing to let her be the focal point
yeah,
because then they can plan in the background. And the more and more I read about the Bastard of Orleans, and of course he's going to go all the way. He's going to be the victor of Formigny in 1450. Um, I think he's got a very keen military mind. He needed to push to do it. But then if you add in some those who will really shine in the next 20 years in the Hundred Years' War, Ponton nos Entrées and La Hire and Alençon, then you recognize that this is a leadership corps that is they're getting better and they're biding their time, probably to get the plans, not just to gather the army, not just gather foodstuffs and everything, but to plan intricately how are we going to take these spots, because in those they have fallen. So now it's them not relieving a siege; it's them besieging.
yeah, these are these other locations that Kelly
Yeah,
mentioned. Yeah, I mean, Orleans is secure, but right up the river and right down the river, like places are not. And so
yeah,
how are we gonna break those holds? And basically recapture the line of the Loire, right? Recapture those
yeah,
bridges, and reestablish that border before we can push beyond. Yeah, I mean, obviously, planning is gonna be a big part of that. And you point out these guys' successes. They know what they have in Joan, right? It's
yeah,
so much of warfare, of winning a fight does come down to questions of charisma and inspiration and like that kind of indefinable momentum. And Joan is bringing all of that like on
yeah,
steroids. You're like, yes, like let's do this, get up there. And they had already seen that. I mean, I think it took them by surprise in Orleans, but after
yeah.
they saw it, they were like, oh my gosh, she gets things done. She gets people to get things done.
Yeah, and she's still recovering from a wound. I mean, we have to remember she fought the whole Battle of Orleans, or almost the whole Battle of Orleans, with a wound in her shoulder and in the neck and shoulder area where she'd been hit by an arrow or a bolt from an English longbow or crossbow, and so she does need some time to recover in that regard.
Yeah,
But
I was
also,
just I was just talking about that wound with actually our colleague Bob Wisdom Savage.
yes, yes,
I was just having a conversation with him a week ago or something like that. where he was like, "Let's talk about this wound." and we
Yeah,
and we
he
sat there and
really
Trey's like, I know you really like dealing with wounds. Let's talk about this wound. I mean, it is a wicked wound. It's
it is a wicked one.
amazing she
Yeah.
did not die. It is really amazing. So
I
yeah,
think I
she's gonna
think it
recover.
misses it. It probably missed anything that was doesn't seem to have broken a bone or doesn't seem to do anything. So it was a very fortuitous wound that would, we would have called a flesh wound at one point. But anything that enters the body, especially if you're a young soldier, a young woman, I would say even more, that's going to be really painful.
Well, and it may have missed stuff, but like that's what makes it amazing. Like that she survived this is
Yeah.
like the area it's hitting. Ooh, for that to not do that much damage is, boy, are you lucky. Or a saint on the field. I mean,
Yeah,
like
well, although
to
Henry V is not a saint, and he recovered from a more difficult wound after Shrewsbury. So
yeah, that was a wicked one too.
they were different folk, I think, at that point. And of course, anybody who serves is different anyway. Just because they're facing that, they have to recognize that they're facing that. But every once in a while, a student will say, "Well, would you rather be wounded by a medieval weapon or a modern weapon?" And I said, "How about neither?"
Pass. I'll
Yeah,
take
pass
option
on that.
C.
Thank you very much.
I'll
Uh,
take option C. Yeah, you would want medieval, but it's not pass. Um,
yeah, pass.
so when this army finally starts going, starts moving, um, the confidence on the French side is enormous.
It's enormous. Yes.
Absolutely enormous. With Joan here, we know what she can do, right? We saw it, it's proven. Like, and when they hit the Loire Valley, it's incredible. It's incredible how quickly these places crumble.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, we're talking. Jargeau was captured one day,
June
and
12th.
this is and June 12th, and this is they're across the river, across the medieval bridge. The only difference with Orleans being a much bigger city is it had the bridgehead, it had the Tourelle, the fortification. So the French can get pinned down, and they send their guns against Chargot, and then they attack the walls. Joan is actually wounded in this, not wounded per se. Her armor, somebody throws a stone down when she's climbing a ladder onto the walls of Chargot, and it dents her helmet, knocks her back down onto ground. But she just switches helmets and goes on. Uh, and then it is very interesting because the it's clear that the townspeople there they are occupied. That's you've got to say they're occupied by the English, but there's not a large number, and they do not participate in any of the defense. So Jargeau falls fairly quickly. The English claim that the church was burned by Joan's army. Uh, yeah, it's still there, and it still has all its pre
That
1429 stuff. So if it was a fire, it was a really inept fire,
church. Terrible fire.
a terrible
Uh,
fire.
June 12th, boom, Jargo's down.
Yeah,
June 15th. So Jargo is upriver from Orleans.
yeah,
So
20
they hit
kilometers,
that.
less than 20 kilometers.
Yeah, quick little drive. And so they hit that. Of course, they have Orleans already secured. The next one, kind of moving down river, is Myeong.
Meung, yeah, which is famous in literary circles for Jean de Meung, who probably wrote the Romance de la Rose, at least part of it. But it's an interesting one, and I know when this is this is the one site I'm taking Bob and Mike down the river. I've never seen more disappointment because the castle where the English were headquartered on an island is much changed. So, but
Yeah,
the
look, I'd never say I was disappointed. No, I was disappointed in the castle. It's true. It's
yeah,
true.
you were disappointed. Yeah, no, not the 12th century thing that's attached to it, but that was out of use by that period. It's the. I mean, Mayung owns a couple of important points. One is that this is where Salisbury died. Uh, that's a year before, but then it is the headquarters on this island in this castle, or whatever was the castle at that point. And that's what's very interesting because the way I looked at it and looked at the sources, it appears that the French move immediately on to attacking Mayung, the town. And there's not much of a town to it. And they capture it very quickly. And then rather than moving on to the headquarters of the English, which would be difficult because it's on this island in the Loire, they moved up the river to Bojency almost immediately there.
Yeah, downriver, but yeah,
Downriver, yeah. I
yeah,
know.
moved
It
along the
was
river.
one direction on the river, yeah.
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 Yeah, and the hip Bojency. So yeah, they take the bridge at Myung on June 15th. So
Hmm.
Jargeau, June 12th. The bridge, June 15th. And then Bojency, they hit June 18th.
Yeah. It's
Bam,
it's
bam,
a
bam.
rapid moving army at this point. They know
Yes.
they're confident, like you say, the enormous.
Yes, and it becomes right. It's a feedback loop, right? So we went in really confident. Boom, Jargeau falls really quick. Oh wow, our confidence is even higher. Boom, the Bridget admin. Oh, we're even higher. Like it is just this momentum and this swell
Yeah.
of excitement, and all like Joan, 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 right? Um, and when Bogency falls, you have this. Um, like what are the English going to do, right? What do you
Yeah.
what do you do?
Well,
Do you
Bojancy's
try?
fun. Yeah, Bojancy's fun for a couple of reasons. I mean, it's not just, that the English are left with an ultimatum of what are they going to do now that they only are on Mayung. Bojancy is Joan and the army take the bridge, and then the small garrison of English troops are in the 12th century castle in there. Would have been difficult to take, but they negotiate their surrender in one of these, we'll let you go with everything you've got. You can carry and your weapons and everything. You just have to promise not to fight us for 3 months. And so the garrison, which knows that there's no other option to live, basically, they leave and they make that negotiation. But the other thing that's important in Bogency that doesn't get enough commentary by a lot of people is that's where Arthur de Richemont shows up, and he is not well liked. He has been
Yeah,
blamed for treason, but he's got a huge army with him, about 2,000 men with him added there.
from
Plus, he's the
Brittany.
most renowned leader in France at this point, or Brittany at least. I mean, coming out of Brittany. And the most of the leaders of the French army don't want anything to do with him. And Jones says no. Anybody who wants to come and fight does. And this is one of the times where it is very clear they listen to her. That a whole thing has happened within this month and a week now that the leadership of France is now saying, yeah, she's doing things that we couldn't do, and allowing Arthur de Richemont to join the army with his extra troops. And 2,000 troops at this point makes the army well over 10,000, which is one of the largest armies since the Black Death, really.
Yeah,
So I think that
it's a
that's
it's a
important.
huge boost. Yeah, and you're quite right. It really is a tremendous signal of her centrality now. Um, in in the fact that when she says no, he's allowed to come in. No, nobody gainsaying her. There's like, okay,
No, no,
yes, yes,
they
ma'am.
won't even meet with him until she walks in and says, "Geez, guys, what the heck?
Yeah,
I mean, do it." And then they do. They listen to her. I mean, it's just crazy because uh, they have. You can't even really be sure of where they feel Arthur de Richemont messed up, uh, because it's not really clear why they don't. But he brings 2,000 Breton troops And he's been the one who's held out all throughout this period. He is not falling. None of his lands have fallen to the English.
Well, Richemont is he's an interesting guy, and he's been in and out of favor because he gets involved in the politics of the court, and that just becomes a whole mess for him. But yeah, they he's welcome back in because she says I welcome him back in,
Yeah,
and that's what it's going to be. And
yeah.
so now Bojency's taken. Now we've got even more men. Now the French sort of turning back. Well, let's go take. We took the
Take the
bridge, but didn't
headquarters.
take. Yeah, we didn't take the headquarters of that castle. Let's do it. Let's do this. And the English face this decision of what are we going to do? Um, and in a sense, there's really not much choice, right? You have the one army that's kind of been there on the Loire and has just gotten, you know, in a lot of trouble. And now and you have another army that's come in relief, but this is no match for this wave that's coming at them.
No, no. I mean,
And they
if the English still have 300 troops, I'd be surprised.
So the English forces along the Loire, both of these both these armies, Talbot's army, Fastolf's army, essentially we're going to we got to retreat. We got to pull back out of the Loire. We cannot hold anything in this valley at this point. Meung is not something we can hold out. Let's pull back and essentially pull back towards Paris. Um,
Yeah.
in order, regather strength, right, and figure out what we're going to do. So
I
tactical
think if they
withdrawal.
I think if they think that if they get to Chartres, that's where the next big English garrison is. Anglo-Burgundian garrison. If they can get that far, they're safe.
Yeah,
And so
well,
that's
their immediate target is Jeanville,
yeah,
which is not quite that far, but yeah, it's in that direction. They're going to regroup at Jeanville, and because it's got walls, we can be secure there, we'll be fine. But we can't be on the Loire at this point. And so they begin to withdraw. Um, and 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 this is where we can all start looking at maps, as
yeah,
I like to
yeah,
do, as everybody knows. Um, they're withdrawing essentially from Young up a road, the D104, is probably basically what they're going up, and that connects with a major road that heads across the landscape. It's actually an old Roman road, but it is a highway essentially. Um,
yeah.
and that is what they end up connecting with, and all the action is going to end up happening on that road. Um, Parts of that road are actually still in use today, just little snippets of it.
Oh,
Rest
I've
of it you
driven
can,
along it. Yeah,
yeah,
I've driven
rest of it you
along
can
those
track
parts.
it on satellite. You can see where it is, but um, there's actually a little bit of it that you can still drive. That is, and this road ultimately runs between Blois and Paris. If you want to kind of connect the dots, that's where this road is running. Um, but yeah, part of that road is drivable, and it's drivable near Patay. Um,
Yes.
it's near Patay that this little bit is drivable. Happy.
Uh, That's as close as we get. We have no clue where the actual battle was fought beyond that.
I have theories. Um,
Okay, let's hear 'em.
I have theories. I got my stuff up here, but I'll first say this is actually it's amazing how close this battle that happens is to a previous battle that happened, which is the Battle of Rouvray, which was long thought
Or the herrings.
the Herrings, Battle of the Herrings, to have taken place. There's a couple Rouvrays in the area, and the sort of standard traditional site is nowadays kind of thought actually not to be the site of Rouvray, that it probably was instead Rouvray-Saint-Croix, which is right next to Patay, like you
Yeah.
walk there. Um, and Fastoff had won that fight.
Yes.
So Fastoff is also like from in kind of his mind, like, oh, this is just great. We're going through like, you know, home territory, as it were.
It may be
Part
even
of the
simpler. This is just the route. that he came down because it's the route that's always taken. So they're going
Yeah,
back up the route.
yeah, and this road goes to Jeanville. Like, I mean, but yeah, he's probably feeling pretty good as we're going along here. Now, uh, typically, I don't know if typically is right, but at least in this case, it looks like the French leadership um, was probably content to let them go.
I think so.
Let's
Yeah.
just settle in with what we've taken at the Loire and just we're good. We're good. Like high fives all around everybody. But they don't. And they don't, at least according to everybody who reports on it, thanks to Joan. Joan is
Yeah.
like, we're not sitting down.
No,
In the
let's go
name
get them.
of God, let us go
Why are
fight
we
them.
not going after them? She just
Yes.
can't understand why an army would stop when they've got this confidence in the character. And she's joined in her voices by these two younger officers, these Ponton de Zantre and Lahier. So it's the older leadership, the ones that are more set in their strategic ways. And they're saying these guys are moving at a slow pace because they've got to move as slow as their walking soldier. Let's ride up there and see what we can do.
Yeah. So yeah, she says this is according to the Duke of Alençon. He later recalled. He said that she said, "In the name of God, let us go fight them. If they were hung in the clouds, we would get them, for God sent them to us that we might punish them. The gentle king shall have the greatest victory today that he has ever had, and my counsel says to me that they are ours." And they set off after them. Yeah,
Well, some set off after the whole. Though it appears that the cavalry really go out in and the knights. Anybody who's got a horse is riding towards that direction. I mean, the infantry is following, but they're
yeah,
not going at a speed any faster than the English were.
right, exactly. So the whole army, they're like, yeah, we know the path they're on. Go get them. But this is done at speed. It's like we're chasing
Mm-hmm.
these guys down, and so yeah, the men on horseback are way ahead of the rest of the army, way
Yeah.
ahead.
And
And
not just the men on the horseback, it's the very best riders because
sure,
Joan can ride, but she actually doesn't get in the vanguard. You had to be, these were the really the best knights in that entire army, the ones who could ride the young soldiers, and they're the ones who are speeding forward. She gets left, the rest of the army gets left. They're going to come into a second wave.
which won't be needed. Spoiler alert.
No, won't be needed.
Spoiler alert. Um, now that obviously the English, they're not stupid, right? I mean they figured we can just march off and
Yeah,
probably
but
be
they're
fine. But
very, very small numbers
small
and
numbers, but
they're
they've
defeated.
got they got some scouts out though, and they do. Oh my gosh, we're being chased, and we're not
Mm-hmm.
going to get to safety. We're going to have to do something about this. For quite some time now, the English have kind of a standard procedure for these things, right? We're gonna do the
Right.
Crécy, we're gonna do the Agincourt, we're gonna do our thing. But that takes time to set up, right? Our dismounted center, wings of archers, this whole we got a system, but it takes time. And
Yeah,
people
they're not
have
going to get it done.
people are charging
They're
down
not
on
going to
us.
be in order by the time the
So
French arrive.
right. So the decision is made. Talbot will take a small number of men. The number is usually 500. We don't know exactly what the number was, but it's something like that. 500 mounted archers, and is going to head towards the French and try and slow them down. If he can slow them down, then the main army can get organized under fast off.
Right.
Right? He can do their stuff. And so these English commanders are really kind of on the fly trying to figure this out. All right, so you'd go delay them. And meanwhile, Fastoff is going to move the baggage and the non-combatants into some woods, along with the vanguard, his vanguard. So like I'm going to put these guys in the woods, and then I'm going to assemble my army, and I'm going to essentially be able to ambush. I'm going to have this huge flank of
Yeah.
my vanguard's going
Yeah.
to come out. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. And
Well,
all
I don't know
Talbot
what they
needs to
think
do,
is beautiful. It's a desperation move.
It's a desperation move. Yeah, it is. It is. But like I mean, it might have worked. It was the best they could do. It was the
It
best they
was.
could do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Talbot goes out to try and set up this ambush. Now, this is where things get squirrely for where things happened.
Yes.
Um, I think I've not published on this yet, but it'll come out in the 200 Years War book. Um, I think that the ambush probably happened near a small village called Saint Sigismund. What we get in the sources is these guys are hidden in trees and hedges along the road. Um, and I'm gonna get a couple other little clues. Those clues all triangulate pretty well to being right near there. So if they're there, all right.
And there is a little bit more. Colonel Leocor, who wrote, I think, the best, I mean, a huge two-volume work on military history, Joan of Arc in the 50s. He had come across an archaeological survey that found a a, a huge number of horseshoes that were in an area because the forest is all gone. Everything that would tell us from the sources are all gone. But they had found a huge number of horseshoes, and he wondered, and it's right where you say it is. And so he wonders if that is a clue as to where Patay was actually fought. And that's pretty good. That's as much evidence we have, I think, yeah, so far.
So far, yeah, and you're quite right. I mean, these woods and stuff, you go there now and it's just open farmland. You're
It's
like,
open.
well,
I've got a picture right at that area. It says, here's where the ambush, where the English are caught in trying to ambush the French from the woods, and it's just flat farmland. You're absolutely right.
farmland. So yeah, this spot, if this is where this English position is, and which is, kind of neither here nor there, I suppose. This little village, Saint Sigismund, that's where they are. They're going to try and ambush this roaring in French vanguard, um, cause chaos, prevent them from slamming into the main army as it gathers up the road, and then is going to withdraw probably through the woods, withdraw back and join up with the main force. This is the theory. They're probably around 3 miles from the main force at this point. Um, it goes wrong.
Yeah, it goes so
Um,
wrong.
it goes so wrong. And it's one of these marvelous, like, is this really what happened? God, I hope this is what happened because it's just
Yeah,
it's just history in a nutshell about what gives this ambush away. Because this is
yeah,
great. This
it is great.
ambush is great.
Is the French have overridden their own scouts at this point. They have no clue where the English are. They just know they're ahead.
Yeah,
Um, and so so the ambush it looks pretty good right now.
looking
Uh,
great.
the the English know where the French are, at least know that the vanguard of the French are riding pell mell towards them, but the French don't know that they're there
Yeah.
yet.
And you got all these archers in the woods, man. Pin cushions. It's going to be pin
Right.
cushions. It's going to be awesome. But then, just as the French vanguard is about to run into this trap, like it's right there. And the
Hmm.
English have just got to be like, oh, baby. Oh, this is going to be, I'm going to be telling my kids about this. A stag bolts out of the woods.
Yeah. Yeah. Right in
Somebody
front of them.
sneezed. Somebody,
Or just got too close to this poor deer and it just jumps across the French army or in view of the French army.
the stag bolts out and bolts into or through, not in, like it doesn't run anybody over,
No,
but
no, it's in front of them. But
crashes through. And I mean, I don't know if anybody other than me listening to this has been facing a charging stag, but I have. It's scary. They're big animals. Like, oh my God,
yeah,
what are you going to do? And these archers are scared, as you would be. and cry out like, "Oh my God, holy
Yeah.
crap!" Whatever it is, they cry out. They cry something out, and the French are like, "Well, that's not normal. There's men in those trees
Yeah.
crying out in
And
English."
these are smart young French knights. They are so aware that that there is something going on. They just simply turn and hit the woods.
They hit the woods. They hit the woods. They crash into. So you have an ambush, and an ambush that gets essentially ambushed is not a
Hmm.
good ambush.
No.
That does
And
not go
there's
well.
nobody but these archers in this first group. So there's nobody actually to go out and counter those knights. And, even if they got one shot off, it's not going to make a big effect against armored knights in 1429.
Yeah. So these guys, the English, just get hammered, and the
Mm,
guys who escape go heading off quick as they can to the main army. So
yeah.
now you know where the main army
Yeah.
is. And they come rushing in. And because there's no delay, the the main part of the army, that Falstaff is trying to organize, um, is in no shape.
No.
And they
And
basically get overrun.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's even, I think it's even more shocking to the Second Army when they see how quickly that ambush that's supposed to be on, based on the archers and everything, how quickly that falls and how quickly there are people running at them from their own army. And that must have completely disorganized. What little organization had been in it is now gone.
Yeah.
And I'm sure troops are already starting to run to Paris. I mean, this will essentially become a downfall for Fastoff because he gets away. Talbot gets captured there, as does Scales in the
Yes.
front group. But
Yeah.
Talbot gets away, or Fastoff gets
Falstaff.
away.
He does. I can't. Look, the English hardly. There's no blow, and they're in a rout. I mean,
Yeah,
they are like
yeah. They
at
start in a route
upon. Yeah,
almost.
they start like on visual. They went into rout. Like that
Yeah,
is crazy. Probably well over 2,000 English get overrun and killed at this. It is
I
a
think that's a
horrific loss.
little high. The numbers are a little high there, but it is absolutely one sided. And it's absolutely a massacre of anybody who's there. And Fastoff did the right thing, which is try to get away with as many troops, get back to Paris, as many troops. But boy, he it turns against him quickly because he's the only one who's escaped
Yes,
of all of
Talbot
them.
says he's a coward.
Yeah,
It gets really nasty. But you're right. I mean, he actually does remarkably well given the situation because he does manage to rally enough men um, to get away in essentially a disciplined retreat.
yes,
It's he doesn't run like he doesn't get away because his horse is fast. He gets away because he gets a group of men to organize and actually have a disciplined retreat away from this, and that's how he escapes, which is good. But compared to the numbers that do not make it away, not good.
yeah. I
Not
mean, the
good.
Duke of Suffolk has been taken at Jargeau. Now Scales and Talbot have been taken at Patay. It's really a huge defeat for the English
Yes,
forces. There's no
massive
question.
defeat. Fastoff is ultimately exonerated about kind of what happened
Ish.
here, but it doesn't. It's sort of one of these things that having the media, as it were, having already stained your name, that even when you're sort of officially cleared, you know, in the court of public opinion, as it were, you're not really.
No, no.
And this
A
really
court
kind
of,
of
court of military opinion, he's not because he presents a plan at 1435 at the peace conference that would have been better than the one that's accepted by the English, but they don't even listen to him.
yeah, they want to listen to him. And yeah, Shakespeare immortalized him as Falstaff. Um, yeah,
But it is that.
which is an awesome character,
Yeah.
and an awesome name, honestly, Falstaff, which has got a wonderful nuance to it with his fallen staff. Not a man. Um, yeah, this battle is often likened to kind of like a reverse Agincourt,
Yeah, except that
which is
Agincourt
weird.
was a lot longer. This one was 20 minutes at most. The second wave of French troops come, and that's where Joan is. And they're on horseback too, but they just haven't ridden as fast as these young these young knights, and the battle's over.
Yeah,
It's done. There's
yeah, she,
there's mopping up procedures, which has also kept the French vanguard from after Fastolf's retreat. But yeah, there's not a lot to be done now. They all arrive. And yeah, so Joan never actually swings a sword or does anything in this battle. She gets there in the second wave and not one. And she's done alone. I mean, it's the Bastard of Orleans in the second wave, Duke d'Alençon is the second wave. So I mean, there's a lot of leaders who are like her who were not as good as these young troops are. And there's at least one source that says these were the cream of the crop, these young knights going forward, and they caught the English, see the stag, knock, and it's done.
yeah. And this, again, we're not trying to sort of belittle Joan by saying, she didn't get there in time or whatever. I mean, she was trying to get there. These guys just got this, and it was over so quickly. But what's also kind of fascinating is it becomes Joan's victory,
Yes,
right?
it
This,
does. It
even
does.
though she essentially hadn't really done anything except been like, hey, let's go get them, right? I mean, again, there's that kind of inspiration or whatever is not nothing. It's incredibly important. But having said, they're ours, God spoke it, she doesn't really effectively do anything, and yet this is her victory.
Her victory.
And people in France are, did you hear Joan of Arc did this? And it becomes this sort of like grows and grows and grows and grows. Joan did this amazing thing. Well, she didn't, but it wouldn't have happened without her though either.
No, it goes all the way into the 20th century, actually. This because when I was young, I put an article in the War and Society. It was eventually published called "Gunpowder Weapons Used by and Against Joan of Arc," and the first review I got back was from later on. I found out a very senior colleague who should have known better, and he said, "Oh, but he belittles. He doesn't have Joan taking part in Patay, and it was her victory. I mean, this is what it says: it's the decisive battles, in history." And I thought, yeah, well, sorry, she wasn't there. I'll give her credit for her victory, but she wasn't there.
Yeah. And again, it's not to belittle her that this battle probably would not happen if you don't have
Yeah,
Joan
yeah.
when they're all like, "Hey, the thing we do now is we kind of settle in and feel really good about stuff." And she's like, "No, that's not what we're doing. We're gonna go get them." And so the battle happens because of her, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely does. Yeah.
But yeah, she doesn't swing a sword there. She doesn't fire a shot, as it were. Um, huge, huge loss, right? That
Oh
look,
yeah.
that
Oh yeah.
losing everything on the Loire Valley in such quick order was already a huge loss. To then compound that with this absolute disaster on the open road, this is bad stuff, and it really is um, a massive blow to English hopes in
Yeah.
France. You can really like from this point on, we're just circling the drain.
Just in numbers, the numbers that they would now have to recruit. The English are at full force, but their population is three times smaller than France's. And the Burgundians, they're going to hang on for a little bit, but they're going to be gone in 1435. So this is 1429. The Hundred Years' War is not decided at Patay or at the Loire, but I think it really the chapter turns. The war, I mean, the whole book begins to be rewritten now, um, because Agincourt is now in the memory. it's no longer holding the defeatism over France that it had for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we start getting towns, villages, communities are literally just coming to the Dauphin and saying, "All right,
Yeah,
we're on your side now."
yeah,
And that happens because of this.
yeah.
It is pretty extraordinary. And the maid, Joan of Arc, is like, the roads are open now. We're going to Rams.
Let's
Like
go. Let's go to
let's do
Roms.
that.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
the
incredible.
coronation army that goes with it's supposed to face three or four garrisons on the route, and it doesn't fight one battle. They all abandon their places. So these rather large cities like Troy and even Reims itself fall without any blood being lost.
Yeah, Auxerre and Troyes hold out for the teeniest bit of time, and
Yeah,
then they capitulate. But yeah, it's totally bloodless. I mean that the Coronation Army sets off on June 29th. So the Battle of Patay, it's 10 days after that battle
yeah,
that we're leaving we're heading we're heading way over to the other side of France into
yeah,
the middle of Anglo-Burgundian territory. I mean, the sea change, the momentum change here is extraordinary. I mean, this is the reason Joan is held up as she is. And again, not belittling her, but rightly so.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because none of this happens without this young woman. It's amazing.
It's her
Really
last
amazing.
major victory. That I mean, she does win a couple of small things after this, but this is precise. But she said this is what her two mission were was that she had been given by God, at least in her mind. One was to raise the siege of Orlean, and the second was get the king de Reims to be crowned.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you wish we knew about this battle that we don't have, or what do you wish we had for this battle?
That I mean, I would. We've got really good sources, and
Yeah.
they're not mined as well as they should be. I had find this is this was a chapter in my book called "Cleaning Up the Loire," and I'd like to go through it a little bit and examine all the sources and so forth because it to me it needs this really needs to be emphasized about uh, Orlean is yes, it's the keystone, but then beyond that, the whole rest of the momentum is from this week of war. Uh, the joining of Richemont, the way that the army gets together, like you say, 10 days, and I think that's 10 days where the Dauphin is packing all his bags because he doesn't know of any of these victories that quickly and they're off to Rennes, and it won't take long before he's crowned. I would love to have more sources. I would especially love to have more English sources. The French sources are very, very good, and we have the rehabilitation trial. We have Dunois and D'Alençon and several others who were there, who are alive and give oral witness later on to this. But the it is interesting because the bourgeois of Paris, and we've got his account in our reader. He still is of the opinion that she's just a witch. She's just a flash of the pan and it'll go away. But this is really militarily, I think this is really an amazing set of victories.
Yeah. Yeah, it yeah, I can't hardly get my head around it. It's just too cool. It's just too cool. And I know people had asked us to do pate, so hopefully we did it justice for y'all.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's always a disappointment when people find out it's not this big, huge battle that it really is. It's a um, stag driven ambush on ambush.
yes, yes. I love it because of it's just such a testament to the uncontrollable things, right? There is
Hmm.
this,
Yeah,
every plan is great, but you never know what's gonna happen. And yeah, in this case, a stag. I mean, well, would they have pulled it? Who knows, right? But um, they may have all lost anyway. Who knows? But to have it happen this way is just too crazy. It's too crazy. I love it.
Absolutely. And I'm sure the young knights up in that vanguard recognize that Stag is bolting towards them, where they're the ones who are creating all this noise, must have recognized there was something that sent it out, that jolted out.
Yeah.
I think there's some really smart this to me, Pate to me, it really it it encompasses the way the French are going to now fight the Hundred Years' War. The confidence, the speed. I mean, all these campaigns that they would go on, especially 1450 and across Normandy, 1449, 50 across Normandy, and then 1452, 53 across uh, um, Great Gascony. It's they're to me they're marvels, and they don't get a lot of attention.
Yeah, and they're
This
just
whole
overrunning. Like the English become speed bumps, and
yeah,
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 it's pretty amazing to think like how close it came to the other way, and Joan shows up and
yeah.
it flips.
And the
Really,
recognition that the Bastard Orlean, who was there at Orleans, uh, now Lord Dunois, leads. I mean, he's the general at Formigny. He takes Normandy. He's not. He dies before the Bordeaux campaign, but the idea that we're looking at the last part of that war, and it's still the people who remember you know who knew Orleans, who knew Joan.
I'm gonna put Formigny on our possible list. I don't think.
Formigny is a fun battle, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
we have
and
not done
it's
that.
not one that's as well known as Castillon, but I think it's every bit as important, if not more.
Yeah, yeah, and you know me, I got notes.
Yeah.
So
So when are you going out to find the real Patay battlefield?
when somebody pays me to do it.
So
Um,
yeah, you asked me. I want more English sources. I did push the question back to you. What would you like?
I mean, for me, pate, I would what I wish I had was a clear sense of that that decision point that we're going to go get the English that was outside of the political question of making Joan Joan.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
our key insights into that moment are all from like the rehabilitation. They're that like we're recovering Joan. We're like holding her up. We're creating this myth. And that doesn't mean that those reports aren't true. They very well could be
yeah,
true. But it
right.
does mean that as historians, we have to be like, well, but like there's a really strong bias context here. And I kind of wish I had that, free of
Yeah.
that
Yeah, but
lens.
it's certainly instrumental in recognizing that she is so well regarded by this moment in both the Bojency when she brings Richemont onto the team, and then when she's the one who says, "Why are we going to let the English get away? Let's chase after them."
Yeah, well, I mean
It's
that's kind
very
of the thing.
clear.
Like, did
Yeah.
she say that? I know that they
Well,
say
I
that she
mean,
says that, but
and
that's
I'm
within
sure
a context.
D'Alençon is. I'm sure D'Alençon is, but Dunois when he sends in his testimony because he doesn't actually appear at the rehabilitation trial, sends in his testimony. But he's simply he says the same, and those two witnesses at the very high military status that they were as leaders, giving credit to Joan for these decisions, both the reconciliation with Richemont and then also the yeah, let's go get him. I don't doubt that. The words maybe not the right ones, maybe not. I think memory is going to be clouded. Maybe build up Joan's what she says, but I think still there that this is where she has become one of them.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm not saying it not true.
No,
I'm
no,
simply saying I would sure love to have.
It would be nice, wouldn't
the smoking gun that's free of that and to
it?
be
Yeah.
like, yeah, it is true. Like, I have no reason to think it's not, but it'd be nice to have that independent kind of view there. So yeah, they're locking the doors on us. I hope y'all enjoyed
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. We've gone long tonight.
Yeah, yeah. And please do join us next time. We actually got kind of like a double feature for our next time. We're going to do two episodes on two different sieges, but sieges of the same place that
Right.
are one generation to the next, which is Belgrade. So yeah, hope you'll enjoy
Yeah.
that.
We'll do Belgrade 1456. First one. That's Belgrade wins. We'll let that out. Belgrade wins. And then 1521, Belgrade loses.
And then they lose.
Versus the Ottomans both times.
So yeah, we're gonna do two kind of that way we've laid the ground, go to the first one, boom to the second one, and then it'll be Q&A time. So you got from now until then to get in those questions for the Q&As, and in the meantime, as ever, a reminder: this podcast is sponsored by Medievalist.net. So the best way to support us, other than buying our individual books, of course, is to join their Patreon at patreon.com/medievalists. That's also the absolute best place to drop us a line if you have questions for our Q&As. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cheers.
Bye.